Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Stephanie Riley, and I'd like to welcome you to today's Oracle's Advisor webcast titled Scaling and Backing Up an Oracle Java Cloud Service Instance. Our speaker today is Prakash Bandal, who is a Principal Software Engineer. And we also have Kelly Severin, a Product Readiness Manager, who will be co-hosting and leading the Q&A session. We expect today's webcast to last approximately 60 minutes, including a brief Q&A session. This session is being recorded, and at the end of the session, I will go over when and how you can access the recording and the questions and answers from today's webcast. Questions can be submitted throughout the presentation via the Q&A panel. Your questions will be collected and read aloud during the Q&A portion of the call in the order that they are received. To aid in question collecting, please only submit your question once. If you are listening via voice streaming and lose sound, go to Communicate, Audio Broadcast to restart the streaming audio. Should you still encounter difficulties, please dial into the intra-call numbers directly using the numbers that were provided in your reminder emails. This information will also be entered into the chat panel for your reference. Any questions that remain unanswered at the end of the session will be transferred to the community where you can continue the conversation. Before we begin our session today, I would like to quickly go over the Get Proactive infographic with you. It is a great way to quickly access and explore the latest available proactive tools and resources which continually evolve and help you throughout your customer journey using Oracle applications and technology. You can access all this information from the 432.1 KM document and also access the infographic from oracle.com. This slide provides a quick overview of some of the proactive programs available, such as Oracle Support Essentials, Moss How-To Video Series, Advisor webcasts like this one, Oracle Support Accreditations, and the Get Proactive profile. So select from above options to meet your ongoing learning needs. Lastly, stay informed, leverage our social channels like My Oracle Support Community, blogs, Twitter, and Facebook. What you see on the screen now is a reminder that this Advisor webcast is intended for information purposes only. Any features or functionality described for Oracle's products remains at the sole discretion of Oracle. Now let's get started with our presentation. Prakash, if you're ready, I'll turn the webcast over to you and you can begin.
Sure, Stephanie. Thank you so much. Good morning to you all. Today's session is about scaling and backing up an Oracle Java Cloud Service instance. The objective of this session is to know about how to scale resources on demand to an Oracle Java Cloud Service instance, and then learn about backup and taking the automated and scheduled backup for Java Cloud Service instance. So we can go through in details of the agenda. Quick introduction to Java Cloud Service and scale out a cluster, scale out or scale in a cluster in service instance. Scale up and down, up or down a node or a service instance, and configuring automated backups for a JCS instance. Also, we will talk about on-demand backups as well, and then brief demo on how we configure and do this. Introduction to Java Cloud Service. Oracle Java Cloud Service is part of the platform as a service offerings in public cloud services from Oracle, powered by Oracle WebLogic Server. It provides a platform on top of Oracle's enterprise-grade cloud infrastructure for developing and deploying new or existing JEE applications. So the beauty of cloud is you can provision the Java Cloud Service instance in minutes, and you're ready to go in minutes where you can deploy your enterprise applications. With part of the cloud service offerings, there are various cloud toolings and functionalities in addition to platform as a service offerings that's a benefit of cloud features. So with that note, today we are going to talk about two important, as I said, like scaling and backing up of an Oracle Java Cloud Service instance. So scale out a service instance or scale out a cluster. For example, on demand to meet the requirements of cloud service, Java Cloud Service instance, to meet the rapid growth in the system load, or or the user experiences in terms of performance and scaling up the environment. You can scale out an Oracle Java Cloud Service cluster to add one node to the cluster at a time. So when you scale out, Oracle Java Cloud Service creates new node running a WebLogic server, a managed server instance in minutes, or in minutes, that comes with the VM of the new node has a compute shape and the amount of storage which the service instance was originally created. So that is, I hope you should have the prerequisites of creating a Java Cloud Service instance. If you have not done so, you can check the previous webcast or go through the documentation that gives you an idea how we can provision the Java Cloud Service instance. So while provisioning the Java Cloud Service instance, we specify the requirements of the node. So with that, when you do a scale out operation, also the scale out comes with the originally the how the VM has been provisioned. So with that, there are a few prerequisites for doing scale out or all this using cloud functionalities. So you have to have the Oracle Java Cloud Service administrator role, and the service instance is not under maintenance. So if any of these conditions is not met, the scaling operation fails, and Oracle Java Cloud Service logs an error message. With that, there are a couple of other observations which requirements in terms of how you can whether you can have an edit log or services not be, is using by somebody else. How we will discuss in the upcoming slides as well. So the primary requirements for the user is the user should be part of the administrator role, and the service instance should not be under any maintenance. That is in terms of patching or the system is down, things like that. This should be in ready state. So the note which we can consider, like scaling out a cluster is not supported by Oracle Java Cloud Service virtual image instance. So virtual image instance, you cannot do a scale out operation. It's a predefined image which you can provision through virtual image instance. To increase resources in response to larger workloads, you can scale out an Oracle Java Cloud Service instance by adding a node. As I said, to meet the on-demand requirements of in responses to the load, or in responses to the topology changes, or you're doing some kind of load testing, performance testing, users wanted to scale the nodes, they can quickly do the scale out operation in terms of adding a node. So the other note was, before scaling out by your own license instance, if it is OCI, bare metal cloud service, and you're provisioning JCS on top of OCI, make sure you have the bring your own license model before you do the scale out operations in terms of to meet the needs of licensing. So scale out a cluster in continuation. The new node has the compute shape that is specified when you create the service instance. As I said, when we provision the instance, we choose the certain shape and memory. It comes along with the memory comes along with the shape that we choose. So when you do a scale out operation, it has the same level of OCPU and memories being provisioned to the node, new node. Wait for any maintenance operations on the service instance to complete, such as backup, restoration, or patching operations before you begin. So as we talked about, make sure the service instance is in ready state. it is not doing any backup operation. When service instance does backup operation, the service goes to maintenance mode, and you are not doing any restoration or patching operations before you do a scale out operation. Accessible service. Okay, in order to perform these steps, we have to go through the Java Cloud Service Service Console UI console, where you can go to Service Console and click the name of the service instance which you wanted to add a node. On the overview page, click Add Node to the service instance. As we go through the demo part, you will understand what these steps are, but these are, you can go back and reference as needed. On the confirmation page message, select the component you want to scale out. If you are scaling out WebLogic server and your service instance has multiple clusters, then we have to make sure to select which cluster that you wanted to add a node, and then you can scale out. If you do not have a multiple clusters, for example, you don't have multiple clusters, you have only one cluster that you have provisioned on the JCS instance, then if that is the case, it will not prompt you to choose which cluster that you wanted to do a scale out. Otherwise, if you have multiple clusters, it prompts you in another window to choose the cluster that you wanted to scale out. Once you're done, you need to refresh to see the status of the operation in the activity log. You can also monitor the progress of the scaling operation from the activity page. We'll show you in the demo part. So here is a screenshot that I captured just for a reference here. If you see top right corner, there is a plus sign. If you simply click on that, it will prompt you the pop-up window where you can choose to scale out a node to the clusters. You can add a new cluster when scaling out by using the REST API, adding a new cluster to an instance. In some cases, you might want to scale out an instance, but a cluster does not exist. You can add a cluster to an instance by using the REST API to add mini server and include the create cluster if missing equal to true parameter in the REST JSON payload, which you pass through the REST call. This will not only add the cluster, but it will scale out to include the new node. Okay, so the gist of this slide is for some reason you provisioned a JCS instance without cluster being created, you cannot do a scale out operation from the service console UI. In that case, as of now, you need to do a scale out operation using REST API that will allow to create a new cluster and then add a new cluster member to that cluster. So how that's possible? For example, if you create a JCS instance through REST API payload and you did not mention to create a cluster, and it will create a standalone server, and then there is no cluster, would not have been created. So if that case, if you wanted to do a scale out operation and add a new node to the cluster, at present you cannot add the existing node to the cluster. That's a known thing. But you can create a new cluster and add a new member to the cluster. Scaling out by using the REST API, including how to use create cluster if missing, is discussed in greater detail in one of the following REST API documentation that I referenced in the note. Scaling in a cluster. So far we discussed to meet the demands of the rapid growth of the user base or load to the applications, we can scale out the environment, which we call it a scale out. Adding a node to cluster is a scale out. So scaling in, once you met the demands of the need of the workload or changing the topology, or once the demands met and it never exists again, you wanted to scale down. How do we do that? We can do a scaling in operation in the JC service instance in order to remove a node. So you can perform a scaling operation for a service instance that has at least 2 nodes. To remove all nodes, you must delete the service instance. So that is an important note, which is double star. Say, for example, in order to do a scaling, you need to have at least 2-node cluster. Otherwise, you cannot you cannot do a scaling in operation. So if you have only one node cluster, it has only one node PM being provisioned and one node. And if you do not want that node at all, ultimately you need to delete the service instance itself. But if you have a 2-node cluster and you wanted to scale, you wanted to do a reduce to one node, then you can do a scaling in an operation by removing the node, so that once the demands met, or once you don't want, or you wanted to use the OCPU for different purpose for different instances, you can do the scaling in operation, so that you can use the OCPU for other purposes to create another instance, for example, or to reduce the billing, whatever the purpose. So that's a good part of the cloud offerings, because on demand you can meet all these requirements and adjustments that can be done within minutes. If backups are configured for the service instance, and Java Cloud Service attempts to create a backup before scaling the instance. Yeah, ideally the backups being configured for JCS service, but not for the virtual image. It takes the periodic backups as we enabled, both either local or cloud storage backup. So when you do the scaling in operations, it automatically does the backup of the service instance. Wait for any maintenance operations on the service instance to complete, such as I said, again, the backup, restoration, patching operations before we begin. So make sure the important thing to check is that the service status is in maintenance mode. If it is in maintenance mode, you cannot do any of these operations. Once that maintenance operation gets completed, either it is a backup or restoration or a patching operation that you are performing on the instance, then you cannot do scale out or scale in operations. Moving on. Again, how we go to Service Console UI, Service Instance Console UI. I refer to Service Instance Console UI than Console UI, so that the users will know to click on the respective service, go to the respective Service Console UI, and then do this operation. Access the Service Console, predefined steps. We can go through this part as we go through the demo. This is as a reference we captured it. I'm just skipping the slide we'll talk about while we do the demo. Scaling in a cluster. Scaling in a cluster screenshot, I captured a screenshot here. If you see, I purposely captured the screenshot. It is a 2-node cluster. You can see 2-node instance, JCS Server 1 and Server 2 running from 2 different nodes, 2 different PMs. And we are doing a remove node operation. We are not doing it, but in the right side, we click the bug assign, which pops up the window, and we can see remove node operation. It is not highlighted. That is because if you see the status of the service instance under the instance overview below the nodes down, the status of the service instance is in maintenance, service in maintenance. So when the service is in maintenance, you cannot do any operations. That is why the remove node operation has been disabled or not highlighted, where you cannot perform that operation. So status should be ready in order to do any of these scale out, scaling operations. Scaling an Oracle Java Cloud Service node. Okay, so far we discussed about scale out and scale in to meet the demands of the in responses to the load of the application, or in responses to the changes of the topology. We can do scaling out or scaling in. For example, we need to scale resources. For example, we need to add more OCPs or more memory to your JCS node. What do we do? In cloud, that's other great functionality that comes with Oracle Cloud JCS offerings, where you can add more CPUs on demand as needed. At the same time, you can add a block storage as needed. However, you cannot remove the block storage, but you can add block storage in order to meet the requirements of resources demands. At the same time, you can also do, change the shape of the node by using scale up or scale down. That's a very good feature of the cloud, where you can do a scale-up operation, add a number of OCPs that you need. If it is a performance intensive or CPU intensive, you need to add more OCPs to the node. You can do a scale-up operation and add more OCPUs to the node. Or you don't want, once the demands met and you don't, the demands were no longer exist, and you wanted to do a scaling in scale down operation in order to reduce the number of OCPs to the node. So you can scale an Oracle Java Cloud Service node, allows you to change its compute shape in response to changes in workload, or to add storage to a node that is running out of storage. However, you cannot remove block storage from a node, as I said. So while Oracle Java Cloud Service is applying your changes, okay, that's guaranteed. Any of these operations, when you perform, the service puts in maintenance mode, changes the state of the node to configuring, and stops any service running on that node. After applying those changes, your service comes back to the normal state where you can directly access your system. It actually brings to the original state as it was before. So at any time during the scaling process, you can check its status by clicking activity log, which I will demo it again. If you scale out a cluster in a service instance after scaling any of its nodes, the new node has the compute shape and the amount of storage with which the service instance was originally created. To ensure that all nodes in your cluster have the same shape and storage, you must scale the new node to match the other nodes in your cluster. So this is again a node with a double star. That means you provisioned a JCS instance and then you did a scale up operation. Okay, that means you add more OCPUs or you add more storage to the node. Then you did a scale out operation where you added a new node to the cluster. That new node comes with the original shape of what initially your JCS instance was provisioned. So in order to have the similar capacity across the nodes, once the scale out operation completed, you have to do again scale up operation to match the other node capacity requirements that you already did a scale up operations or scale down operations, whatever. So that is again, it has a mandatory check in case if you are doing a scale up operation before adding a node, then you have to make sure you manually do again scale up operation to meet the same number of OCPUs as the other VM has. Okay, here is the example. Changing the compute shape of a node from OC3 to OC4. That means that it doubles the capacity of the node from 1 OCPU to 2 OCPUs, and also doubles the RAM allocated to that specific node. You must scale each node individually to optimize performance, and Oracle recommends that you scale all nodes within a cluster to the same specifications. So you don't expect that one node should run with OC3 and one node run with OC5, and it has different combinations. Ideally, that will not be recommended. So make sure you have all the nodes met the same specification levels. The applications that are running on the node will be will be temporarily unavailable while the scaling operation progresses. It puts in a configuration state, and then it does the respective scaling operation, and then it brings back the service instance as it was before. So again, you cannot do this operation if the service instance is in maintenance mode. So check the status, make sure it does not have it does not doing any backup, restoration, patching operations. Access the service console. Again, the series of steps how we can do a scale up or down operation on a node, on a Java Cloud Service node. So select resources besides the node that you wanted to scale, manage the node, and then select up or down. I'll show you this as part of the demo. So here, if you see the screenshot that I captured, you can see that the pop-up window for scale up or down. It will tell you what is the original shape. Or like in this case, currently using shape is version 3. Specify a new compute shape to adjust the resources required. From version 3, you can do a scale up either version 4 or version 5 or version 6, version 7. These are all general purpose OCPUs. There are high memory shapes. It all comes by money, right? It comes associated with some cost. So make sure you have the enough resources available in terms of what you purchased, what you got the entitlement. Based on that, you need to do these scale out operations. If you do without having the resources purchased, you may get overage, or your services may get suspended temporarily. So this is the pop-up window where you can see all the general purpose and high memory shapes that are available to scale up this node. And just to be cautious, for example, for upper stack layered services, for the SOA, for example, only higher memory shapes are recommended. So I don't think you will see general purpose OCPUs in the pop-up window. So basically, it identifies based on the service that you have and pops up what is available for you to scale up or down a node, the respective node on that service. Adding storage to your node. So we did talk about changing the compute shape and the memory, and what about the storage? You need to have, for example, you have a predefined memory being selected while creating the JCS instance, but you need on demand you may need to increase the storage capacity. So in order to do, you can add a storage either to your custom volumes as you want it to, you can create, or to the existing default volumes that has been provisioned along with the JCS instance, like example, middleware volume or backup volume or temp volume or JDK volume. Either one of these predefined, provisioned volumes also you can do you can add more storage to the respective mount points or mount volumes. So you can add more block storage to individual nodes in an Oracle Java Cloud Service instance. You can update an existing storage volume that is already attached to a node, or you can create a new storage volume. So as I said, you can either update, either you can add more storage volume to the existing storage volumes, or always users can create their own custom storage volumes in order to for their operations they wanted in terms of storage, having more space in the VMs. Do not use Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Compute to attach custom storage volumes to a service instance nodes. Any custom storage volumes that you attach will be detached if the service instance is restarted. This is common mistake where users tend to do this mistake. They go with their experience sometimes, especially if there are OS admins, Linux admins. They try to add their own default mount volumes, storage volumes on the VM directly by SSH to the VM, which ideally they should not be doing it. And that has its consequences in terms of when you stop and restart the instance, those manually storage volumes being removed. Always, you must update the storage configuration of each node individually. You cannot remove unused storage from a node. Yes. So you cannot, you must update the storage configuration of each node individually. For example, you have two nodes. You cannot say one operation to perform on two nodes at a time. You have to go to each node and do that, add storage to that node. You cannot perform any other management operations while we do this, while the storage operation is in progress. The applications that are running on the node will be temporarily unavailable. You cannot add storage to a node while the service instance, as I said, like maintenance, patching, or backup operations. That's kind of prerequisites for that, any of these operations. Adding storage to a node again with the continuation, how we access and how you do that through the service console UI. Again, service instance, we have to go to the service console UI, and the name of the service, we have to click the name of the service instance that contains the node to which you want to add the storage. The dialog box will appear. Select one of the existing storage volumes. Add a new storage volume to this node, or select the additional partition option if you want to have your custom storage volumes. Enter the number of GBs that you wanted to add this volume. For instance, in Oracle Cloud infrastructure, the minimum size of the volume added by scaling a node is 50 GB, which is OCI infrastructure only. Okay. If it is OCIC, which is Cloud Infrastructure Classic, the minimum size is 1 GB. There is an upper limit, but upper limit is very too high. I think it's 2048 GBs that you can do a scale up, adding storage operation to that mount volume, whatever that you wanted to do. I mean, either a custom or existing volumes. Again, to check the status, we can monitor the activity log, which you can see. I'll show you how we can monitor that. So here is the screenshot that I captured for add storage option scale up operation. As currently using the following storage volumes, it will display all the existing storage volumes that has been those are the default volumes that comes with the JCS provisioning instance, and then the middleware volume size, how much you wanted to add a storage to the volume, and domain volume and backup volume. So you can pick any of these volumes and then add required storage requirements, or else you can add a custom volumes by choosing additional storage volumes, which is additional partition size in GB. I will demo once we complete the other part as well, so that we can save some time. Scaling automatically. Okay, why I brought this up is this is one of the other very important feature of cloud offerings as a GCS. You can do automatic scaling, which allows you to configure a set of rules or policies to determines when to add or remove nodes from clusters automatically, and the minimum and maximum number of nodes that can be added to the cluster. You can create a rules at any time and edit them anytime and delete them anytime. So basically, it's a very key feature of cloud offerings as part of the platform as a service JCS offerings, where you can create, for example, memory, your heap, for example, heap utilization on the VM JVM goes to a certain level, and you want it to do a scale-up operation. You can automatically select that rule and put that rule to take place, and which that rule gets triggered automatically to add respective resources to the instance. So similarly, you can also, for example, CPU. If the VM gets into like 80% and above, and you wanted to add more OCPUs, you can configure that as well to do automatic scaling. This is completely a different topic, but I just wanted to make sure users understand this. There is a feature that is available, which they can explore on demand and see how it, and they can give us feedback or anything. But this is very important feature that we have on GCS. So here I provided the reference to the documentation. But again, this feature currently does not support on OCI, that is Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. This only supports in OCI C. Configuring automated backups for a GCS instance. You can control, this is again a very, very important feature of GCS, where you don't need to worry about your backups, what's going on the instance in terms of configuration changes, in terms of new application deployments, or there is some fault tolerance where you wanted to recover your GCS instance. You can quickly do, restore operation on the backups that has been taken, so that you can bring back the system online within minutes. Sorry about that. So you can configure either automated scheduled backups, or at the same time we can also take on-demand backups as needed. So we'll talk about it one by one. Here we can control when the backups for a Java Cloud Service occur, how they are stored and how long they can retain. We can set that. By default, backups are stored in the location that we specified when we enabled backups on a service instance. But at the same time, you can change the storage location as needed. You can create a different storage volumes, and you can use that. You can play around with that. If the storage username and password that you originally specified for this service instance have changed, backups will fail until you update this configuration. So make sure whenever there is a user password gets changed, we have to manually go to configuration backups and then provide the update the new user password so that the backups will continue to be successful. There is a new feature lately that if 3 continuous full backups was failed, the user gets administrator get an email notification, and at the same time the backups will get disabled. The user can come back and update the storage credential, user password, and then enable the backups. The other important thing was, as this is kind of a bottleneck where whenever the password gets changed or password gets expired, with the Identity Cloud Service Authentication type, the PSM which was released in early April, Identity Cloud Service mapping, the services which are provisioned with IDCS based, and if you have enabled authentication based on IDCS, this is no longer a requirement. So basically, there is an enhancement request which has been addressed, and now it is from 18.2.2 that is on live. It is in the production where users can create IDCS-based service instances and enable IDCS-based authentication. Again, how we can configure the automated backups from the Service Console UI. We'll go through the steps. This is documented for user references. However, we'll demo it the same steps. So there is like a few terminologies that are important to know. Full backup. From the drop-down list, select the day of the week and the time of the day, UTC when you want the full backups to occur. That is the full backup to occur. The incremental backups from the drop-down list, we can select the time of the day, UTC, when you want incremental backups to occur. So full backup happens weekly once, incremental backups on top of that full backup that is called delta of that, which occurs every day, except the day that full backup occurs. And the other important thing, as we got some questions on from the customers, can I configure the backups using local time zone? No, currently it is UTC because the underlying platform Pass Service Manager (PSM) allows the UTC time, so you cannot configure the local time to reflect the backups. Coordinated backups. By default, when a backup is initiated on the service instance, the database deployment associated with the service instance is also backup. It also gets backup. Clear the checkbox if you do not want to take backups of the database deployment. Yeah, so we can decouple if we don't need to take a backup when the JCS gets a backup. But again, it's a user choice. Ideally, database takes its own backup every now and then, but in order to have a coordinated backup at the same time, we can configure this and we can restore the system to the JCS and database to the same levels. Note: all times must be for the here is the note also. All times must be for the coordinated universal time zone, not your local time zone, as I said. In the storage account details section, configure where backups are stored. You have to basically provide a storage volume that has been created in your cloud storage space as a cloud containers, so that the respective storage backups will get stored in that respective container for that easy restoration taking purpose. In the set a new retention period to field, enter the number of days that you want new backups to be retained. If your database decrease the retention period, if you decrease the retention period, any existing backups that are older than the period are automatically deleted during the next scheduled backup if were enabled. That's again very important thing to understand to the users. So by default, when you provision the JCS instance, backups being enabled, you have to get enabled, and it's enabled. And by default, the retention period is 30 days. So it's user choice. If you want, if it is a dev system, you don't want to keep 30 days backup. There is no point. Why to pay for? Why to use more storage? So reduce the retention period to lesser number, like 10 days. This just wanted to be, I just wanted to highlight that. And then we'll move on. Creating. Okay. So far we talked about how to configure scheduled backups, which are automated backups. It triggers as we configure the day of the week, from full backup will happen, and then subsequently takes the incremental backups for the next 6 days until that full backup occurs. That is the automated backups configuring. And then, for example, you wanted to take a backup on demand. There might be a need to take a backup on demand. For example, you're making some major changes, you can take a backup on demand and keep that for your, if you want. You don't know whether you're not 100% sure whether you wanted to, whether it would go right or it would go wrong. In those cases, especially, we recommend users to take this on-demand backup. That way, you can restore the system so quickly to the existing previous state without any delay. So we'll talk about it, how we can do that. It's so easy. That's other advantage of cloud tooling that allows to do all these than on-premise. So in addition to, at any time you can create a full backup of your Java Cloud Service instance. In addition to scheduling regular backups, Oracle recommends that you manually create a backup before and after making major changes. As I said, you must enable backups on the service instance. If you did not enable backups when you originally created the service instance, then you have to enable the backups. Basically, you can do on and off, like you can disable the backups, you can enable the backups. For example, you disable the backups and you want to do an on-demand backup, then you have to make sure you enable the backup again. Otherwise, obviously, you'll get a pop-up window that it says you have not enabled the backup. And this the other good thing is this on-demand backups. It never gets deleted until you manually get until you manually delete. Wait for any maintenance. Yeah, this is again like service console operations. How you manage this, configure and manage and view the log of that activity if you are doing on demand. So we can talk about these steps while we demo. So again, while creating on-demand backup, it's your choice. That means it's user's choice whether you are not whether or not to back up the database associated with that service instance. And at the same time, if you enable keep forever, choose whether or not to retain this backup indefinitely. If selected, this backup can only be deleted manually. As I said, if you choose this, and this it never deletes based on your retention period until unless you manually, users manually delete that specific on-demand backup. If not selected, this backup will be deleted at the end of the current backup retention period for this service instance, as I said. If you select the include database option and if the Oracle Real Application Cluster option is enabled on your database deployment, then this option does not apply to the database backup. The database deployment retention policy determines how long the database backup is kept. So again, this is very, very important. The common questions again on this space. If you take a JCS coordinated backup, the database backup stored on the database side, it manages its own retention policies and periods. So that is nothing to do with the JCS retention period. So that's very important to understand. To check the status of the backup operation, periodically click refresh. Yeah, this we can see how we can see the activity log. So here is a quick screenshot that I captured and which you can see from the Java Service Console UI. I went to the Service Instance Console, which is Ocean JCS, and then I went through the administration tile, and here in the right-hand side you can see available backups where there is a kind of a bug assign where you can click on configure backups, and you can do the configuration of the backups. And the backup now is for the on-demand backups, and disabled backup is for you can if you want to enable disabled backups on demand. Okay. Demo. I'll quickly demo this in using my instance, how we configure backups and how we do a scale out and scale in operations. Share my screen. Oh, sorry, it's taking time. Cloud.oracle.com. Sign in. I go to my cloud instance. Mine is traditional cloud account. Give me a 2. Identity domain. We have to input, user has to input their identity domain once they choose the data center. Then user can log in with their credentials. There is a quota breach on my test instances, so we may not be able to perform, but I'll clearly explain how we do this, how we configure this. Click on the Java service entitlement that you got, and that's where you can go to your Java service console. And then once you go to Java, it will give you the overview page about your service, Oracle Java Cloud Service, about service overview details, what is the service status, and who is the buyer, what is the resting point, service start date, end date, domain ID, domain name, ID, domain ID, data center region, etc. Important information for review. And then you can click on Open Service Console. Here, I can go to, if we have to, as I said, once you go to Java Service Console UI, we can click on respect to service instance. We have multiple instances in this service. So I'll go to my instance, Ocean JCS. Once you come here, if we need to do a scale out operation, as I said, to meet the demands on-demand needs, user want to add one more node to the cluster. So how do we do that? Add a node to the cluster. Here you can see add a node to the service instance. Or else you can go here to a scale out. Menu option, scale out, or for easy access, do click here. Okay. As I have don't have enough quota to the scale this instance, yeah, I have to see my quota limits. Otherwise, as I capture the screenshot, it will show you the window to scale out which instance that you wanted to scale out. And then if you have multiple clusters, it will prompt in a window which cluster that you wanted to scale out. So this is how user can quickly do a scale out operation by logging into my services dashboard and going into the service console UI and getting into the service instance, do a scale out operation. That's how it will, as provision, number of OCP is 1 and memory is 7.5 gig. So when we do a scale out operation, the originally whatever the shape that we provision, the new node, for example, there will be another node gets created. That node will have the number of OCPUs same and the memory is the same. And for example, if you would have done a scale up or down on this node, and if you done a scale up operation and you did a number of OCPs to OC3 to OC4, then you have to manually do that operation for that new provisioned instance as well. That is the criteria. That's very important. And then in order to, once the demands met, or once you wanted to, again, the demands met, or you don't have a load, now you wanted to remove that node, what do we do? Or you need to use that OCPU for a different purpose, I wanted to remove it. So what we can do is, whatever the node that you wanted to remove, that is called scaling in operation, remove node. We can click the remove node, it will delete this instance. In order to do a remove node operation, you need to have at least 2 node clusters. If we have a 1 node cluster, 1 node JCS instance, if you click here, for example, it does not have an option to do remove node. So as I said, you need to have at least 2 node clusters in order to do a scaling in operation. When you do a scale out, it will add a new node with the original shapes and memory that has been provisioned. And if you have done post that any scale up or down operations, you have to do manually. That is the other important thing. as I said. I'm just repeating that again. So with that, we have demoed scale up and scale down. And as I said, there might be glitches. You need to understand the user should have, as I said, user should have administration role, and user should have enough capacity, and service should not be in maintenance mode. The status should be ready state, as you see here, and the backup destination by default for this is we recommend, and it's a mandatory that you need to enable that. So with that, I wanted to show, for example, if I do a scale out operation, and how do I monitor the log, right? So we can monitor that log by going to view activity, as I explained the steps. Go to view activity. Here I can choose my previous, I can choose the previous dates from where I wanted to April 26, for example. Okay, I'll just check failed. If you see scale out operation, I can expand. The scale out operation has been failed. Who has initiated? When was start time? When was the end time? If you see the scale out operation, why it has been failed, it gives you the details. If it was successful, it will say activity has been successfully completed and the operation status successful. Okay. Here, why I wanted to show this is the other thing. When we do the service, it's not only patching, right? Backup, maintenance. The service can be in ready state, but still the scale out operation can be failed. There are maybe different reasons again. In this specific case, you can clearly see I have an edit log on the console or on my domain configuration. So that is why the scale out operation has been failed. So whenever you do these operations, make sure you notify to the users of that service instance. There might be service instance users who are having access to the instance and who might be doing something actively. So make sure you send a notification and nobody using the service instance, and then do a scale out operation. That is one thing. The other criteria to fail is you may not be having administration privilege. The other criteria is you may not have enough OCP resources, things like that. So make sure you check the service should not be in maintenance mode. At the same time, service should not be used by other users, having a edit lock on it, the configuration, in order to do the respective scale out operation. So that is how we monitor the activity log of that respective operation. So coming back to, we are done with the scale out and scale in, right? Now, I wanted to show one more thing. How do we do scale up or scale down a node? For example, I wanted to do a scale up operation. So if you do again, I don't have enough resource quota, so it will not allow, because service is in suspended state because of quota breach. So in order to do that scale up operation, if you click the scale up operation, it will allow us to scale up the shape of the OCPUs. So currently the OCPU is 1, which is OC3, general purpose memory being used. That means one OCPU with 7.5 gig memory. You can scale from OC3 to OC4 or OC5 or OC6. So that will double your number of OCPUs. At the same time, we can add more storage by doing add storage. Once you add storage, you cannot remove storage. You cannot remove the block storage from doing again syncing down. So all you can do with the scale up or scale down is we can change the shape of the OCPU. Either you can upscale or you can downscale in terms of number of OCPUs. That can be done. That is called scale up a node or a scale up a service instance node. So we are done with that. Coming back to the backups and restoration, make sure you go to the Java Cloud Service JCS, click backup administration tile. Once we click on the administration tile, it will allow to configure backups. Here you can see configure backups. Once a little rush here due to the time constraint. The full backup, Wednesday, what was the time that you wanted, and then the incremental backup. And choose the coordinated backup, whether you wanted to do a coordinated backup or you can disable coordinated backup as you wanted. So this is how we configure backups, which is automated or a scheduled backups that we call. You can see schedule. Every day, Wednesday, full backup. Every week, Wednesday, full backup it takes. The remaining days, it takes incremental backup of that delta. And we can include whether you wanted to include a database or not. Make sure you have provided a storage container and username password. The container where your backup gets stored and the retention period set here. How many days that you wanted to get the retention. In case there are various customers reported problem like my backup was not successful, what is the reason? Either the password would have been expired or password would have been changed. So whenever it happens, that means the password gets changed or expired, user has to come here manually and update this password, otherwise the backups will get fail again. This requirement has been changed, as I said, with the Identity Cloud Service authentication model. Users can use IDCS-based authentication, so that you don't need to worry about this, about this expiry or whatever. That is a good feature now. It was released from 18.2.2 onwards. The current release also is 18.2.2. So with that, we are done with the configuring backups. Now, I wanted to show one more thing, how to take a on-demand backup. You can see, your scheduled backups, you can see here how you configure it. Daily at what time, and daily at full backups at what time, and then incremental backups. Incremental backups daily, this is the time, and full backups Wednesday at this time. So it will show you the details, what is the backups in cloud storage, what is the volume used, what is available, things like that. So once that is configuring backups, automated backups done, we can do a on-demand backups by going to backup now option, and you can choose whether you wanted to include database or not. If you don't choose, it will not include the database, and you can choose, as I said, keep forever or not. And you can use the tag. For example, I'm making some changes, major changes in the configuration, taking a backup. So you can use the tag in order to restore if you wanted quick restoration for any reason. So that way we can configure backup now. It would see the cloud itself. Cloud is because to make user friendly and easy to manage things like this. So these are the great features of cloud offerings where customers can take on-demand backup and take a scheduled backup and restore the system as they need without worry anything. So other thing is how to disable enable backups. You can see here. You can click there and you can do either enable or disable. How do we restore? It's a completely different topic. We'll take it up later, and this is the way we can restore. Okay. So with that, I'm done with the brief demo on how to do a scale out, scaling in operations in a cluster where to meet the demands or to meet the topology changes. The other thing is we did a scale up or scale down with respect to a node in terms of the OCPUs being to scale up the number of OCPUs or scale down the number of OCPUs, and how do we add a storage to the node. So with that, I'm done with the demo. Going back to the presentation. We learned on-demand and scheduled backups, how to configure from the service console, right? And then we learned how to scale out a cluster, scaling a cluster in a JCS instance, and then scaling a node. So these are the key things, and which are the key features of Java Cloud Service as a platform service offering from Oracle, where users can depend on these features, which benefits a lot. So with that, here I gave the documentation, not documentation reference, actually learning reference, where it has the complete screenshot references for each step-by-step how users can take, do these operations, whatever that we talked about today's session. With that, I have done with this session. I'm handing it over to Stephanie. Sorry, Stephanie, I took a little over.
That's okay. Thank you very much, Prakash. We are going to open up for Q&A in just a moment. Please use the Q&A panel or the phone line to ask a question. You can send the questions via the Q&A panel on the WebEx screen or press *1 on your phone. While we pause to collect your questions, I'd like to share some helpful information on locating Advisor Webcast and how you can access the recording from today's session. Document ID 7409661 is your starting place to find out about upcoming webcasts and also get the recording, PDF, or continue the discussion links for all webcasts. From the drop-down on this page, you will select your area of interest. Here you will select Oracle Fusion Middleware. You can also go directly to the Oracle Fusion Middleware document, where you will be able to see all upcoming webcasts on the Current Schedule tab. As you can see, all the Advisor Webcast product pages have been simplified based on your feedback. You can view some of your most popular webcasts on the Most Popular Webcast tab. For today's event and a list of all prior webcast recordings, you can go to the Prior Webcast tab. You can click on column headings to sort, hover on webcast titles for more information. You can play back the recording from within the My Oracle Support document 2279004.1 listed here. Recordings are available within 48 hours. If you have any questions on a webcast, click on the community link. The Q&A from today's webcast will be posted to this thread, as well as responses to questions that we may not get to cover during the webcast. Please use this community thread for any follow-up questions you have related to today's topic. The PDF file with slides from today's session can be accessed from the MOS document or directly from the community thread posted in the chat for you. Now we're going to open it up for questions. As a reminder, send your questions via the Q&A panel on the WebEx screen or press *1 on the phone. Dorothy, do we have anything over the phone first?
There are no questions at this time.
Okay, Kelly, do we have a couple in Q&A?
Yes, we do, actually. The first question, Prakash, is, are these topics specific to OCI or OCI Classic?
OCI Classic.
Okay. And then the next question I have is, how do you change the location of automated backup to a new storage container, object storage?
Yeah, we can go to Configure Backups, provide the new storage container as we created, which will take it up. By going to the My Service Console UI, Configure Backup, Administration Time, Configure Backups section.
Okay, great. Thank you. And the next question here looks like it's a duplicate of the first one. So I'll skip that and go to how long will the activity logs remain?
That's a good question. I think it will remain for 90 days, but I'm not sure. I can double check and update the question and answer section while we post the community forum.
Okay, perfect. Let's see. It looks like I have one more question. What compute shapes are supported by the Java Cloud Service?
All the shapes that are available, as I said, like by default, when we do a scale up operation, it will give you the list of supported shapes as a pop-up window where users can choose from one of the listed options in the pop-up window.
Okay, perfect. That's all the questions I have right now, Stephanie.
Perfect. Thank you, Kelly. So that concludes our Q&A portion of the session. Thank you, Prakash and Kelly, for a wonderful session. We hope that you all enjoyed the valuable webcast today. Please take a moment to share your feedback on this presentation and the webcast program via the survey that we'll display when you exit today's event. Let us know what topics you would like covered in future webcasts. Thank you to each one of you for taking your time out of your busy day to join us. We know you have many demands on your time and appreciate you choosing to spend some time with us. This concludes our webcast today. Enjoy the remainder of your day.
Ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude